Hi, everyone. I wanted to discuss something that happened last night. And to be honest with you, I am not really happy about it at all. And I want you people to hear this. And I also want Jack to hear it. Right after I explain the beginning part, kind of like an opener, I'll get into exactly what triggered me to do this video. I was going to do it last night, but I decided to sleep on it. And I really couldn't get any sleep. But I wanted to cool down and I wanted to make sure that my head was clear before I went and opened up my mouth about things and maybe say something that I really didn't want to say. As most searchers out there that have been in the community for a long time know, initially the YouTube channels were relatively small. About 3 to 4 years ago, when I first started going on YouTube a lot, and when I created my channel a little over 3 years ago, there were probably only a handful of channels that were really worth mentioning. There weren't that many at the time. But right now, the community is obviously growing, and I have a lot of the more popular names, as you can see on my screen here. Of course, we also had forums such as Dal's forum, and then we had Chase Chat, and then eventually K Pro started Thor. So basically, there's been a really big community and an active community, and most of the YouTubers that I have here on the screen have been really spending, a lot of time. I mean, when you combine everybody's time on there, we're talking, probably tens of thousands of hours easily. And a lot of their stuff is, of course, based on their own solves, based on stuff that they found. And for the most part, everybody's goal was to provide really helpful information to the community. That certainly was my goal. And I know that although everybody on here may not get along all the time, we're not all a bunch of crazy idiots. For the most part, most people out there are trying to be helpful, including myself. And with me, that was true even before YouTube. I was on the forums, at least Dal's, and then eventually Jenny's. I was never on Chase Chat. Of course, we also had Facebook groups. I had my own group after a while, but prior to that, I was on a board that was being run by Janet Langard. She was a movie star back in the 60s. And, basically the community got along pretty good. I eventually started my own channel because I wanted to get into a position where I can discuss things without having to deal with trolls. Because, as unfortunately, when the chase got bigger, more trolls came and, it started to become a mess. Today, it's really a mess. And unfortunately, there's a lot of drama and stuff like out there. But for the most part, the better channels like I show here are trying to focus on good content. That is what we do. And like I said, that requires a lot of investment in time. Some of the people on here are able to monetize their videos. I asked for donations, but to be honest with you, people don't usually donate. I think I got maybe $100 in 3 years. And I'm just hovering around 1,000 users because I don't pay for subscribers like some of the YouTubers do, and I don't pay for likes and stuff like that. So I'm sitting somewhere around, and it was natural growth, somewhere pretty close to 1,000 subscribers, and I have, I think, just over 210,000 views. So my channel's pretty successful. It's dropped a lot. I actually lost about 100 subscribers because I haven't been putting out as much content. Obviously, the chase is over, right? So anyway, I realized that some people don't really like that certain channels make some money. I care, but I'm not going to let that take over because I still think that at least they're. I think that they're, for the most part, most of the channels, their meetings in the right place. Because if I wanted to go out there and ask for donations, I had plenty of things go wrong. For what was it, a year and a half ago? I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. That ran up. I mean, a lot. The bill was pretty high. close to $100,000 for surgery and everything. Of course, I had insurance, so I didn't have to pay that much, a couple grand. But then last year, my wife was in the hospital again for 2 weeks, and she ended up being out of work for 3 months. So it impacted me pretty good. But again, I mean, I'm a big guy. I can take care of myself. I don't need, to depend on other people. I don't jump to the GoFundMe's and so on and so forth. So I was tempted back when I think it was 3 years ago. I had during a hurricane, I had like a little over $20,000 in damage on my house, and the insurance didn't cover it all because it's really strange in Florida. Although I have a hurricane insurance, all right, I have a lot of trees on my property, and let's say a tree falls and damages a fence or something like that. The insurance didn't cover it because according to them, if the tree hit the house, they would cover removing the tree. So I mean, I literally had to hire somebody. It cost me a couple grand just to get rid of all the trees that fell. Um, they were all over the place. I couldn't even walk around the yard. But in any case, I've had like everybody. I'm not the only one. There's plenty of people in the community that had hardships, and a lot of them they don't ask for anything in return, and they still give. And that was the nice thing about this community. For the most part, like I said, everybody gives and tries to help each other. Now, obviously, we don't give everything. You always try to hold something on your side. You're not going to give away everything, and then but you do what you can. I mean, and it kind of feels good because you're giving back. That was kind of the way that I was raised. I always gave back. I was a volunteer fireman. My brother is handicapped, so my parents and I were involved in running things for handicapped children, including the Special Olympics, stuff like that. We would bring the fire truck around, give kids rides on the fire truck, and we always did things in the community. And I've enjoyed that, and I really enjoy like doing research and sharing it with other people, especially since I due to my disability, I don't get out of the house that much, and it's nice to be able to communicate with other people instead of because it's just me and my wife here. My kids are both. One of them's 38 years old. The other one is 36 years old, and I have grandchildren that are teenagers. So it's not. It's just me and my wife for the most part, unless the grandkids are around. So it gets really quiet around here, and I just really enjoy doing this stuff. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people that do that here. So one of the things that you need to consider when you create a YouTube channel and you start giving out information is obviously how much do you want to give out? Because obviously you do run a risk that somebody might look at your video and say, well, look, he missed something here. And then of course they pick up on what you missed and maybe they don't communicate anything back with you. So now boom, you run the risk that somebody is gonna jump ahead of you and they're gonna perhaps use some of your information to find the treasure chest. Um, when we put things out there, we do so, at least I do. I'm making the information public, and I fully understand the impact of that. For example, if somebody were to pick up on my information and they use it to solve the poem, that doesn't mean that I'm entitled to any share of that treasure. This information is public. You're making it public willingly. You can't turn around and try to sue somebody that uses the information you put out there. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the other hand, I wanted to attract people that think the way I think because I believe that it was easier for a collaborative effort, a team, to solve this instead of a single person. Let's not let greed get away. Build a team, and that actually did help me build my team. But although I was teamed up with Sam Smith prior to doing any of this stuff, but it helped me meet my partner that was in Wyoming, certainly. So it did benefit me that way. But anyway, I enjoyed discussions with people like that. I mean, it's what I enjoy. That's part of being a community. I don't appreciate people that lurk. There's a lot of people out there that just want to take, 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 take. they never give. And that kind of defeats the purpose of the community. So I believe that that's fine. If somebody doesn't want to join a community because they want to keep their information private, then I really believe that they shouldn't be watching that community either. They're not entitled to any of the research that they do. But you can't really do anything about that, especially on YouTube. You can't tell who's watching your videos. And the same thing with Facebook groups, unless you're going to be deleting people that don't post all the time, which is exactly what I did in my group. Because it's not about having 10,000 people in your group, because most of the group that have thousands of people only have about 10 people talking. So it's just, it's stupid. And a lot of the people that are in the groups are bots. So you really want to have a good group of people that are talking to each other, not just 10,000 people that don't do anything. I'll explain why I'm doing this video then today. Before I do that, I want to make something very clear. I am not into the conspiracy theories. I don't believe the chase is a hoax. I know the treasure chest was in Wyoming because not only did Forrest say it was in Wyoming, but he also said it in legal court documents. Okay. He said that the treasure chest was in the state of Wyoming. But anyway, when I'm talking about controversies, I'm talking about controversy with Jack. Like, people are saying he was hired to get the chest, or he's not really the finder, he bought it, so on and so forth, or he's friends with the family, or he hacked somebody's machine, I don't believe any of that stuff. I do believe Jack is the finder. I want to make that clear. He's the finder. He had his hands on the chest. Why is it in Santa Fe and not in his hands? I don't know. Only he knows. But I don't think there's a controversy. He is the legitimate finder. Now, here's the reason why there's so much controversy. It's pretty simple, really. Although Jack proved that he's the finder, he didn't prove that he's the solver. And not only that, he said many, many, many things that outright contradict what Forrest Fenn said. Now, I want to make it clear again. I do know that Forrest said that giving out the solution would be up to the person that found the chest. He's always indicated that. But on the other hand, he's also said things like, you're going to be amazed when you find out where it was. Oh, wait, when you find out the solution, you're going to say, my God, why didn't I think of that? And then he said, the person who finds this chest is going to be, the vocal kind of person. You'll know it, unless they don't want the IRS to know, he joked. But he said countless things like that. It's interesting that Jack waited until Forrest Fenn passed away before he became known. Was it because he knows Forrest is no longer around to contradict anything that he says? So at this point, Jack can say whatever he wants. Forrest isn't here because Forrest would certainly correct him if he said something that was wrong. Now, the other thing is, he indicated that, well, I don't want to give out the sob because Forrest wanted to protect the place. That is outright wrong. It's completely wrong. Forrest never said anything that would indicate that. And also, common logic dictates that if Forrest wanted the place to be kept secret, the worst thing you could do is create a treasure hunt, put something worth $1 million there, and then challenge people to go get it. He had 350,000 people looking for this thing. So you're telling me he had 350,000 people trying to solve the poem and locate the place that he wanted to keep secret? Yeah, I just can't buy that. And that's another reason why there's so much controversy. And I kind of feel bad for Jack that he has to deal with the controversy. But on the other hand, he put himself in this situation. Jack has made plenty of comments that he pretty much worked solo on this chase. He didn't have any help. And I think he indicated that he wasn't into the community. He shy, and he didn't base his solution on anything else. It was all his. And I find that really hard to believe. I kind of blew it off, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say, well, Jack, you don't want to give out the solution. I think that you're doing a disservice to 350,000 people. I think Forrest would have liked you to give it out. And the fact that you're not giving it out is the reason why there's so much controversy. But one of the things that comes to mind is that maybe you're ashamed, or maybe you worked yourself into a corner because you know that if you come out with the solution, the minute people hear it, they're going to know where you got your information, your starting information from. I personally believe you got a lot of the starting information from me and probably back to Sam Smith. And that's what happened last night, and that's what triggered this video. Because I became aware, I guess through K Pro, through the show that they did, that Jack called in to Toby on A Gypsy's Kiss. And he did that in June of 2019. And he was discussing cognitive bias, which is the video that Jack created a day before that he appeared for a second time on AGK. Now, the thing that annoyed me is everything that Jack was talking about during both of those calls was stuff that I discussed myself, specifically me and Sean Dotson. Not only that, 1 year before Jack was on AGK, I was on Toby's show as a special guest. And you know what I discussed when I was on Toby's show? Bias. I discussed the proxy theory. I discussed accessing the hints in the book by using the poem. How to find out where Forrest Fenn's alone in the book, beginning on page 23. And that's how he wraps his hints, where he surrounds in that specific example. Not always, but in that example, he says my name, and then you had Forrest Fenn, and then my name. I did a big breakdown of what happened in Vietnam. I discovered where the waterfalls was that he went to in Vietnam, where the French grave was in Vietnam. And then I figured out that if you take that, and I did this video like 2 years ago, the original one. If you take that information, it actually takes you over to the Bighorns. Yeah, he would have landed if you look at that story. If you literally mirror, he took a trip on X degrees to the northwest for 1 hour. Well, if you mirror that over to taking a trip to the east for 1 hour at the mirrored vector, it takes you dead smack to the medicine wheel. So he would have landed on the medicine wheel and he would have been throwing rocks down towards Five Springs Creek. But anyway, I didn't discuss Five Springs Creek specifically back at that time, but I did discuss the wheel, and I discussed, pretty much everything, but I discussed also the fact that I thought there was a proxy and there was a legal barrier, and I discussed the use of an LLC or a SubC, subchapter C. I know about subchapter C because I owned one in the early 2000s. I know how you can use it to protect your assets. Same thing with an LLC, but a sub C is a little bit more official. They have this thing called piercing the corporate veil, and that's easily done on an LLC. So there are many ways that Forrest could have done that. But I talked about that on Toby's show. I talked about that. I talked about finding places where Forrest is alone, how to find the hints in the book. And I also discussed the cognitive bias, and then being subjective versus being objective when you're looking at hints. And I also discussed on AGK and my own videos all of this stuff, right? So I also discussed the cognitive bias stuff, because that was the whole thing that Sean Dotson and I went back and forth before I decided to do the grammar breakdown of the poem. And that's another thing. If you look back on Jack's articles, he stated that, and I'm going to paraphrase here, although you don't have to be an English major, I believe that the English and a good understanding of the poem. In other words, breaking it down and understanding the phrasing, the clauses, and so on, and meanings, and so forth. In other words, everything that I've been discussing all along. And when I seen that, it really burned me up because I'm like, it's not like I want him to come out and say, oh, Troy did everything, because that's not true. If he took my work, that's fine. That's why I put it out there. And not only that, like I said, the solve that I sent to Forrest was wrong in May. It wasn't until 2 days after Jack had found the chest that I figured out it was in Five Springs. So Jack is the fair person. He got it, I'm not entitled to anything. Considering what I heard last night, I'm really annoyed that he won't just be upfront with us and just come out and say, look, I did a lot of studying of stuff that I seen on this channel or this channel that, and I put everything together, and then I discovered the ending, something that all of those people were missing. Because that's probably the honest truth. But I think he's backed himself in a corner now, and he can't come out and say anything, because if he comes out and says anything within 2 miles or 3 miles of the medicine wheel, every single person is going to know where he got that from. So he's out there talking about grammar. Well, go look on my channel. I have 110 videos out there. Look at all the grammar discussions I did. How about the blinking light on the and Philadelphia and covering the thumb, and that being the astronaut level? All of this stuff is I've discussed in the past. I'm bringing it up now, and I've discussed it on message boards. That's why my videos tend to be long, because I start discussing things that I remember while I'm going on with the video, because I have like a massive amount of information. But there's no way that anybody can convince me, with all these names here on my screen and then some, that somehow none of these people in all of the research played any part in this. Jack was just some genius that went out and he figured out everything. All right. I honestly believe that Jack didn't know about try to wheel, or he knew about it, but he didn't know how it works. Okay. I knew that. And I still left some stuff out on purpose, because if he's going to come out and try to use it, then I'm always going to keep the whole card. I'm always going to have something that not everybody's going to know. That's just the way everybody should work. You don't give out all of everything. You always leave a little bit to try to keep yourself 1 or 2 steps ahead. But I try to put out enough to help. And so does everybody on the screen. And I really feel, Jack, if you listen to this, and I hope you are, that you're doing a huge disservice. I believe that you could turn this whole thing around if you gave out the solve and then try to use the knowledge you gained and your solution to help the Indians, or to help to help the state, the young people in Wyoming. Whatever you're going to do, give back. But give back, and also be honest and upfront. Tell us the solution. Don't feed us this stuff that Forrest didn't want us to know, because that's wrong. And if it was anywhere near the medicine wheel, go and look at the last few videos I came out with, because even the Indians don't mind all the tourists. And the fact of the matter is, they already get tens of thousands of people going there. It's not like giving out solutions is going to cause 1 million people to go there. Most people aren't going to go there. And you and I both know that if it's where I think it was, that's not anywhere near the wheel. It's roughly 2 miles away. There's nothing there to destroy. It's a creek in some woods and a canyon. I mean, it's an ancient trail, yeah, but go look up history. That trail was already destroyed. All the cairns were removed and everything. You know who did it? The state of Wyoming, when they put the road in. That's who did it. So I don't really see what the point is of giving out the location. And if you're going to come out and use the Indians as an excuse, that's wrong. Watch my video from 1991. Listen to what Francis Brown says, and he represents 81 tribes. Okay, he's basically represented the Homa Brown. It's no longer a secret. Like you said, we like to keep things secret until there became an issue. Well, there was an issue in the 80s. So instead of trying to hide the place, he was fighting that I want the Forest Department to educate the tourists. I want them to have a ranger there, which they did. I want them to move to the parking lot, which they did. And then I want them to add more interpretive signs, which they did. And that is exactly what Forrest took advantage of, the interpretive signs at the wheel. That's how you apply the poem to the wheel, and then you end up following the sun's radial off the wheel. I mean, the solution is really straightforward, provided you knew enough to start at the wheel. So instead of being like that and not even giving out a solve, even though the hunt's over, try to give back to the community. You lurked all those years. You ended up getting an advantage out of it. So why not at least give us closure? At least let us move on and know whether we were close or not. We're big people. We could take it. Look at how many people are looking in the wrong state. They took it. But everybody that was looking in Wyoming, I believe they deserve to know. Giving out the location is kind of be useless. You might as well give out the solve. I'm really curious about that. Forget about where it was. And if it wasn't my solve, let's say for some reason, and I doubt it, but it was in Yellowstone. Well, if you ever came out and said my warm water salt was Madison Junction, we all know where that came from. I mean, let's face it, Jack, there's only a handful of spots in the state of Wyoming where it could have been. No matter where it was, the chances are extremely high that somebody else thought of it. So don't let that worry about it, because they can't sue you. They can't do anything because, even if they put it out there and copyright, that doesn't mean anything. It means that your works are copyrighted. Like when I put out my videos, I'm copyrighting the video itself and the content that I have in the video. But the actual solution, I don't think you can copyright that. But in any case, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. The person made it public. If you ever tried to go in front of a judge, the judge would laugh at you. He would say, "Well, how could you sue Jack for using your information when you willingly put it out there in public?" You have 350,000 people that are really hoping, and honestly, Jack, I hope that you make the right decision. I really do. I hope that you come out with the solve. And to be honest with you, and don't take this the wrong way, if you aren't going to come out with a solve, then essentially you might as well just stop talking to searchers, because you're not really helping anybody. If anything, you're hurting yourself by making more controversy. We don't need that. Neither does Forrest Fenn's family. So anyway, please reconsider, Jack. Come out with a solution. That's really all I have to say. Now, to move on to something else, regarding the solution video I put out 2 days ago, I just wanted to let everybody know that it's actually doing pretty good. I'm getting a lot of feedback on it. It's convincing a lot of people because, yeah, I mean, it has evidence within it that is very hard to say is biased. I mean, the poem is literally telling you right there. It's confirming it for you. Also, it's pretty darn convincing. It's really straightforward. It doesn't use ciphers, doesn't use anagrams, doesn't remove any punctuation, doesn't modify any words, doesn't use any synonyms. It doesn't do anything weird like that. All it does is step one, use the poem on itself to reveal the starting location. Just like T.S. Eliot said, I forgot the exact words, but it's something like, we end our exploration and then we wind up where we started, knowing the place for the very first time. That's essentially what Forrest did here. The poem's first phase allows you to solve for where warm water salts. Once you've done that, you basically just read the poem again and go to where warm water salts and follow the clues using the information that's available on site, including a map that explains the significance of each of the stars around the cairn, and the overlook explains the basin. And the overlook is showing you the crossroads, which is the meeting place. that all of the tribes would use coming up there. I mean, everything is available on site, you know? So anyway, it's pretty convincing. It's convincing enough that I was actually contacted by one media company so far that is interested in talking to me, and I'm probably going to talk to them. I think they're looking for another perspective for since Jack's not coming out with a solve. They're starting to look at the searchers that are coming out with their own solve since Jack won't do it, and certainly mine hit a few notes on their piano, and of course it hit a lot on mine. I'm pretty darn sure about it. Anyway, I might do a follow up on that too because I really I'm still getting questions about it, even though I explained it. But I don't know. And then I want to do the video about doing local treasure hunting based on forensics of satellite data and LiDAR data, a bunch of things like that, and how to find old trails, stuff like that in the woods. Basically, wherever you live, it don't matter. How to get historical maps, how to geo-reference the maps, cool stuff that I want to get into that doesn't really have anything to do with Forrest Fenn. So anyway, hopefully I'll come once I calm down from all this stuff. I'll come out with another more useful video. But for now, I want to put this out there because I want Jack to see it, and I want the community to see it. I feel that basically we were burned by Jack because him showing up on AGK contradicts a lot of the things he said. And when he was on that show, many of the things he said were clearly something that he discovered from either my channel or somebody else's. And of course, he's never going to mention that, but I will. And as soon as people listen to the AGK videos, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about, especially my viewers. You go watch it. Go watch it. I'll leave links below, and you listen to what he says, and then think about my videos, and you'll see exactly what I mean. Anyway, folks, again, Jack, please reconsider. Peace.